Hello everybody and welcome to Evil Ted Live here on twitch.tv/EvilTedSmith. Today's episode, part 2 of the making of Leila's gun from Vampire Hunter D. This is pretty much where we're at for the detail. What we're going to do next is there's these cylinders, as you can see right here on the design. These kind of weird little piston things. Again, what do they do or serve purpose? Doesn't matter, they just look cool. I went ahead and had a thin PVC pipe I got at a hardware store, because it was the proper diameter that I wanted. So what we're going to do is we need to kind of like, they got little caps on the end and little rings at the top. But right now let's focus on this piece. So what I ended up doing was, I had the PVC pipe and I went ahead and cut with a piece of tubing the same diameter and made little foam plugs. So I got the foam plug in here. I made all 4 of them, got them all lined up. And for the ring, on the top of the design, you guys can see here too, there's a bit of a ring. And what I'm doing is that I took some thinner craft foam and I cut a tube a little bit bigger. So when I glue it on, it has a little bit of a lip. As I made a paper pattern that we'll wrap on this to do our detail, we're going to wrap it on top of this. So let's go ahead and get some thin foam and trace one out. Before I glue this on, I want to soften these edges real quick. All right, we got that on there, and this is the ring that goes on the top. So let's go ahead and just put a little glue on this. All right, now we have this. Now, if you look at the design, the edges in the drawing, I mean, granted, they're domish here, but we're not going to go that crazy. We're just going to round those off. Now, realizing I'm doing this, it's like I want this to lie flush, so I realized that this spot right here on the bottom, we're going to go ahead. This, we know for a fact, it's the front, so I'm going to take my knife and just cut this off the back, nice and flat. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit. See, and the reason I do that is so it'll come in here and lay flush perfectly like that. Look at that, see? Again, there's some little finances. There's a piece that goes here and a side up here, and of course we have these straps that we have here. We will move on to that next. And when it comes to the screw and hardware, I think I'm actually gonna use real screws. I did a little bit of work off camera. I'm going to show you guys what we caught up to now. Is that I have this little piece that sits back here behind the gun on these little buttons. I got that added in. I added this piece on the bottom. And I did this out of this is inch EVA TNT Cosplay foam. I cut the dimension I needed. This is a strip of 6mm I cut and then turned sideways, cut and made the trigger, little notches on it. Got that glued on, and I added a little bit of a ring detail of foam. I wanted a little extra step. I got the PVC pipe, but I took some 2mm foam and made a little secondary ring to add a little bit more detail. This is a little notch piece we need to add there. The one thing you'll notice I changed, originally I had this strap on here and I ran it from the top all the way down and around. Oh, I also got the trigger. I made that, got that glued in. We have that. Of course, for the detail, I took a brass tube and cut into the back of it. I took an X-ACTO blade, cut a slot, and just heated it and shrank it, so that's how I made the screw head right there. I'm going to cut this a little bit deeper to make the registration so I know where these guys line up. I'm going to lay this on here like so. Good, we got both sides. We know exactly where the detail is going to fall and wrap onto. We've got our foam strips, and now I'm going to go ahead and cut the little round. We got these cut out, and again, they're nice, but I want to just clean them up a little bit better. Right there. Look at that. Very cool. Now I get the straps on. A little bit of a, I actually had this, I like this lip on this in the original design, so I went ahead and took the strap off, and we're just going to wood burn a line into it. part on the gun I really like that I'm noticing, it's this little piece right here, which is this part here. And it needs this little piece that comes out here. What we're gonna do, kind of do a straight, line this up. I'm gonna just trace a curve. All right. Sharpie, draw it. And I think this is a job for super glue. No, there it is, all together. I got the straps down, I got a little bit of the detail, got the bands on here. I took some double stick tape to stick these pieces on yet because I do not want to glue these on yet. I want to just go ahead and seal everything first and do these separately and then glue them on because there's a lot of details. Next step is what we're going to do is going to seal this up with poly latex 60. I'm going to use black because you guys can see in the design. I'm going to paint it silver. All right, there's the gun. I went ahead and sealed it all with a poly latex 60. Got it all. I pigmented it black because I know the gun's going to be silver. I did all this, and again, for the hardware, I'm going to add real screws and nuts. But I realized when you usually do this, if you have your hardware, go ahead and make small holes for the screws and things to go into. It's a lot easier. I didn't have them with me, so I wasn't able to do that. I mean, it's not a big issue, but normally, before you seal something, make your recesses and holes for where you're going to mount your real hardware. I was under the impression, or the illusion, that I could find something like this already made, like a key or a pull, or I was walking around, going to stores, and I actually found myself just wasting time because this did not exist. So again, when something does not exist, what we all do is we make it. I got 8mm TNT Cosplay foam, and I took a brass tube and cut holes into them and made little round discs. My plan is I'm going to do a smaller circle inside here. I'm going to Dremel, bevel them, and then bevel both ends and glue them together for my taper. All right, now that I have my circles all done, I'm going to take a sanding drum on my Dremel. I'm very carefully going to Dremel the edges down to the black line. So I'm going to do edge to edge and kind of rotate this and do all 8 of these. But before I do that, let's put our mask on because it's going to turn into Foam City. All right, you can see I have all triangles. That's the effect I'm going for. But I did this with a sanding drum, which leaves a lot of grooves. So I'm gonna hit it one more time, very quickly, with the stone. And with the stone, we'll just basically clean these guys up a little bit more. We'll get rid of the roughness on them. These look dry, let's go and touch them together. See, there we go, that's one. Here's our pieces. So on the top of this, I have this ring right from here to here. I'm gonna use the same tube to cut those out for the detail on the top. And this will go on top of that. It's perfect. Now these are gonna be my screw heads. So what I do is I'm gonna have a groove in those, but I always wanna make sure they're centered. So it's always good to have your circle template because when you look at your circle template, there's little marks for centered. And when you line them up, it shows you dead center. It'll be these screw heads. I went ahead and made my lines and got a wood burner. I'm gonna very carefully just draw my line. Now the reason I'm using a wood burner is I want the lines to be pretty pronounced. Now I could do the old cut and heat shrink thing, but I don't think the lines will be thick to my liking. So I'm just gonna do this with a wood burner. All right, now we have these. I'm going to group my screw heads on top of that. I'm going to use some super glue. I have to look directly over them to make sure I'm dead centered before I push it down. I got this these things are cheap, so to prevent the bristles from coming out, I take super glue at the base of this because I'll be brushing stuff and sometimes a bristle will come out and it just pisses me off to no end. All right, now these guys are completed. I'm going to go ahead and coat them. Now, I'm going to coat them with Creature Cast. Creature Cast, it's a liquid neoprene. Again, if you guys want to know more about this, I will have links on this on the video, below the video. Also, you can go to my website, what's listed, creature cast. It's super water thin. I'm gonna pour a little bit of cup in here. Stuff is great because it's an alternative for people who are allergic to latex or have latex allergies. This is another great alternative to using and sealing your foam instead of using latex. Now what I'm doing is I'm taking an X-ACTO blade and poking a hole on the bottom of my foam little knobs here. So I want to put a toothpick in there. Now, this is quite an elaborate thing, but normally I would have these done. I would just coat them all at the same time. But since they're separate, and I want to make sure I get these coated evenly, I want to do them while they're off the gun. So they're far easier to coat now while they're separate. I got a piece of scrap foam here, so once I dip them, I can stick them upright and let them dry. So now we just go ahead and dip them. Now the cool thing is this stuff's super water thin. So I'm going to submerge it. I'm going to leave the back raw foam because I think that would just stick better when I glue it. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave that as is. Okay, they're looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and it's going to take a little time to let these guys dry. So I want these to dry completely. And once these dry, we're going to take them off and glue them on the top of this before we apply them onto the gun. All right, all the pieces are done. Everything's prepped. I am going to start painting this as a base color. And for my base color, I'm going to do some experimenting. I'm going to use Flexi paint. This is a silver, and it's relatively thick. I've been reading the directions and checking some stuff online at the store, and they've told me that I can thin this down with some distilled water. So I'm going to do just that. I want to be able to paint this and not put my hands on this. So I left a hole in the barrel, so I got a piece of threaded rod, and I just push it in the barrel so I can hold my gun while I'm airbrushing. All right, go ahead and got my spots masked off. I'm going to glue. I know I'm going to glue in these the screw heads. I'm going to glue the cylinders on it. So I got this all masked off. So now I'm going to start basing my color. All right, now these are the cylinders on the gun. I need to paint them the same color. So to make it easy, I'm just going to put them on a toothpick so they stay upright. So you see I taped off because I know where I'm going. I need a space to glue. I'm going to stick them upright like this. Now that we have these done, let's go and do a gentle little spray pass on it. Again, really thin. These guys look really good. I'm happy with them, but I've realized before I glue these onto the gun, I would think it'd be easier to paint these gold while they're off the gun. For the gold, I got some Tamiya gold leaf. All right, guys, you can see this is now the base coat is all dry. While you guys were gone, I went ahead and removed the tape and super glued these down. Now you can see why I went through the trouble to paint these while they were off, because having these on and trying to paint this gold, not that you couldn't do it, it just would be a giant pain in the butt. So it's kind of like good to have these already painted before you glue them on. Now again, you can see the masking tape. I removed those so you can glue these down. The PVC barrel, I just went and glued in it, but I want to tell you, I ended up doing this with 5-minute epoxy. Now some people like to use super glue, and you can, but the problem with super glue is if you get it in crooked, it kind of grabs and sticks and you can't move it. So I used 5-minute epoxy so I could slide this guy in and position it to where I was happy and comfortable with it. And 5-minute epoxy, granted, gives you 5 minutes to adjust these, to get it dialed in perfectly. So we're going to paint things in order. I'm going to do the weathering first. I'm going to use some oil paints. I like to work on a piece of cardboard. This is my painting surface. You don't want to get it dirty, so I squirt a little bit of paint onto a piece of cardboard. So I can just kind of tap it and mix it together. This is I like to take the black and the brown, and we're going to mix these two together. Now, it's going to be my dry brush right here. I'm going to reach in with this brush. I'm going to kind of just bring it out a little bit. That's better. Now the oil paint will stay soft for some time, and it does eventually dry, which is cool because it gives you a little bit of time where you can just kind of fade things out a little bit, but you can always come back in there and wipe off the excess. It's a little too heavy. this looks all pretty good. We get that all age, get the nooks and crannies where I want to go. Now I know what you're thinking, isn't there hardware that goes on here, Ted? There is. There's screws that are going to go on here. There are these guys. I'm going to glue them on. The reason I have not put these on yet is because I want to do the rub and buff, and I'm going to take silver pewter and rub it all over the place. And it's just these screws are going to get in the way when I'm highlighting and trying not to get them on there. So I'm going to do all the rub and buff, trick it all out, get all the rub and buff on it first, and then once the rub and buff is done, then I will go ahead and glue in my hardware. Finger, spread it out. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Now again, I like to do it in thin layers because with rub and buff, if you get too much on, it's kind of a pain to get off. So I just do a little at a time. We got our gun, we got the hardware, and I'm going to use, let me grab it, super glue. Now I cut the posts are still on here. I come a little short, but I left a little tension on them so they kind of stuck in there. And I did that so they have something to grab onto. So, a little super glue on this. See, look at that. I don't know if you guys can see that some of the gold came off. Again, I'll go back and touch that up. All right, we've got the hardware in there now. The next step is we're gonna paint the handle. All right, we've got some brown. I'm gonna use it's acrylic browns. It's called the Real Brown. I realized that when I was doing the wood burning, it came up, this actually goes all the way up and all the way up here, and I should have burned the line continuously. So, since I didn't do that, I should have, but it's already done. I'm going to put a piece of tape in here to cover this off so I can paint the brown so that the silver goes all the way up here. Line up dead center. All right, we use that as a guideline. Perfect. All right, we got 2 coats of the brown on there. It looks good. I'm going to go back here and take my Tamiya tape, peel it off. See, now I completed the little handle again. Next time, if I do that, I'll definitely do a wood burner. But that's how that is all done. Got that in. The handle looks great. I'm just going to go ahead and seal this with acrylic, but I'm not going to use the spray. I'm actually going to use a brush. Well, there it is. Looks really good. The handles are done. The screws are mounted. All the proper aging. I went through an age on the handle. Looks great. The gun, fantastic. Oh, I realized too, the barrel needs to go bye-bye. So I got some flat black paint, and I just go in there and paint this. And the very last touch on this gun is there's a red wire that goes from here to there. All right, but I tried to find some. I do not have red wire. I have some heat shrink tubing. I went ahead and just heat up and shaped it. And I'm going to just try to cut it to fit. So all you kids at home, get some red wiring and don't do what I'm doing by sticking some heat shrink tube in here. Put a little glue here. I'll tell you what, this calls it done. This gun is all together. The rub and buff looks amazing. I like the dark metallic. Again, this was based with the Flexi paint. This was a silver Flexi paint. I went over the whole thing, coated it first, and then sealed it with my clear varnish. The Krumbacher is great stuff. Cleared it with that, and then proceeded to do all the highlights and painting. Rub and buff, glue these guys on, paint the handle last. Looks amazing. And of course, the barrel now is all black. Super awesome. I am so happy. Wow, there it is, guys. Look at this, this is fantastic. This came out great, everybody. Again, if you want to get these patterns, I have these available in my shop. This was so much fun. Granted, it was a little bit of an adventure to make this. This was my first time making it, but now I learned how to do it, and I documented events, so you guys can build this with me. Be sure to go to my store, get my patterns, and if while you're in my store, don't forget to get on my Amazon, shop to my links, and get on my mailing list. This is super awesome, guys. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'll be able to share.
Hi, Ted. I think this is mine.
Yeah, yes it is, Sylvia. Hey, everybody, Sylvia Vale.
Hi.
So where can people find you at?
Sylvia Slays on all social media channels.
That's right, guys, and don't forget, we're going to be able to see us. We're going to be dressed, she's going to be dressed up as Leila. I'm going to be dressed up as Vampire D. We'll be at TwitchCon, October 21st, which is Saturday. We'll both be dressed up, walking around. Follow us on our social media. We'll be posting where we're at so you guys can get pictures with us. That'd be so awesome. Well, thanks, Sylvia.
I know, it's so pretty.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Bye. Ooh, which reminds me, everybody. My next video will be how I made the holster for Leila's gun from Vampire Hunter D.
I'm so sorry. I think that's mine too.
Yeah, it is.
Bye.
Wow.
Bye.
Crazy. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you back next time right here on Evil Ted Live.